Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Elemental Maker B channel. As somebody previously joked, Elemental Baker. Which, I actually do bake bread occasionally. Maybe I'll put a video of that up. But today, I am working on making a delicious kind of jerky recipe. It's actually called Biltong. It's like an African jerky. It's made without using heat to cure it. It's actually cured with like a vinegar or wash process. Delicious, delicious stuff. Super simple to make. Problem is, my dehydrator puts out way, way too much heat for this. Biltong's actually best made using room temperature air to actually blow over it to just very slowly dehydrate it. This sucker dries it out way too quickly and it gets way too tough. This is great for making normal jerky, but it doesn't quite work for Biltong. So what I want to see is if we can tear into this sucker and disable it. Obviously, this is a food dehydrator, and trays go up on this. I think I have like 5 or 6 trays. So they stack onto this and air just circulates throughout the system. Typically hot air. I think it comes out at like 100 and maybe 90. I forget. It's pretty warm air though. So it's drying it out too quick. Let's see if we can find a way to disable the heating elements. Maybe build a switch into the top here where I can turn the heating element on and off. Possibly in the future, I might hook up some sort of little PID controller to this so I can actually set various temperatures, but that's a little out of the realm. I got the beef in the fridge. I'm not doing all that today. All right, so we have 2 concentric rows of screws here. Looks like this one's to hold the blower in place. Yeah, you can see the motor through there. So let's start with the outer ring and see if that does it for us. All right. Hey, ooh, there we go. Certainly doesn't look to get any simpler than that. So we just have a heating coil encased in a mica insulator. This stuff's actually pretty interesting. Nicely constructed there. Very nice. Very simple. Can't beat it. So if we just tap in here, that should turn off. Put a switch. We can just bypass the whole kit and caboodle. Make it nice and easy. Well, I was hopeful I had a nice little round switch, but unfortunately not, so I'm just going to have to throw this jobby in there. Big old clunker. Well, it's far from the optimal cutting implement. A diamond wheel. But it's all I got right now. That's a nice, beautiful clean hole. One you'd be proud to take home and show your mother. Moment of truth. Hopefully my measurements were that's beautiful. That looks factory. Unfortunately, I don't have any spade connectors to do this in a different manner. There we go, fired up. What I would have liked to do is use spade connectors to make this as solderless as possible. However, not having any spade connectors to work with, I am using solder. Now, I also don't have, well, somewhere I have lead-free solder, I just don't know where. And unfortunately, I'm getting this done now. So, soldered the connection there, and I'm just heat shrinking it real well. This is actually out of the area. This is not going to be contacting any food. At most, a little bit of cool air will be circulating over this. There's no risk of lead getting into the food. So, I'm sure the safety Nazis out there are shitting themselves, but plus it is now covered in heat shrink, and I'll be doing the same for every connection. So, calm your tits. All right, hopefully that works. Let's plug it in real quick and test her. Alright, so with her plugged in, Right now it's off. We're getting no heat to the coil. Flipping her on. We are getting heat. Beauty. So, working exactly like intended. Perfect. Can't beat that. Alright guys, just like that, we are in business. I figured we rigged up the dehydrator, we might as well try making a batch with it. So, got some Black Angus chuck roast. And obviously from my favorite store, all these nuts. Pretty decent sized roast here. What is it, 3 pounds? Now you can use, honestly, just about any cut. Chuck is actually, as you can see, kind of a nice fatty cut. Biltong, unlike jerky, you actually, well, a lot of guys leave a fair amount of fat in it. It gives it a ton of flavor, and it kind of cures to like a buttery, I'm sure at some point it would affect long-term stability of your final product. You'll probably have it go rancid at a faster rate. Although it is, we do add quite a bit of salt seasoning to it, salt, black pepper, coriander, and that probably will preserve it pretty well at the same point. So yeah, it's never lasted long enough for me to test shelf life, so who knows. All right, got the chuck. You can honestly leave the blood on, leave the blood off, doesn't matter. It's going into an apple cider vinegar bath after this. All right, what we want to do here on this first cut, about 1/2 inch thick strips, 1/2 to 3/4, it doesn't really matter. And we want to go with the grain for this initial cut, because our final cut is actually going to be across the grain, which is going to make it a little less tough to chew. So what I'm going to do is just start some cuts with the grain. So you can see, good looking meat. I got to give a huge thank you to my buddy Dom for sharing this recipe with me. And he's the one that completely perfected this. We would eat it every day on ATV rides. We go out. Well, he has a dirt bike, but I try to make it through the single track following him. Usually end up hitting logs and shit. But he would always make the biltong and bring it out on the rides, and we'd have it for lunch and snacks, and you know, to go along with some trail beers. And nothing in the world is better when you're out on the trail just craving some calories and fat than this biltong. It is amazing. Got myself a big old bowl. Gonna add a little bit of salt. This is where I differ from my buddy's recipe a little bit. Just add a little bit of salt and a little bit of coriander to keep the meat protected while it's drying. This is probably unnecessary. You can probably just do straight apple cider vinegar. I like the fact that coriander and salt are both kind of good preservatives, and they'll keep bacteria and stuff at bay while the meat's curing. And we'll just start dumping our meat. So traditionally, the purpose of the vinegar is to kill any bacteria that might be on the surface of the meat. And I think traditionally they tend to use brown vinegar or malt vinegar. I really, really love the flavor that the apple cider vinegar gives it. So that's just my preference. I think some people even use balsamic, which that seems a little much to me. All right, we got them all coated in vinegar. I'll throw some saran wrap over there, put it in the fridge for a few hours. All right, guys, so every so often you want to take your meat out and play with it a little bit, flip it around, give it a couple smacks, you know. Get the apple cider vinegar distributed over the meat. We'll cover it up again and leave it continue this curing process. All right, meat's been sitting out for, I guess, about 4 hours at this point. So let's start slapping our meat onto the tray. You guys, make sure you use proper hygiene when you're doing this. You're probably at a greater, sorry, I just got off the treadmill, I'm gassed. You're probably at a greater risk of contaminating it with stuff on your own hands than you are from the raw meat itself. And we're off to the races. Your house will smell like delicious meaty vinegar for about a day. Tell your wife to get used to it. All right, and I will get back to you guys in a few days. Since we're not actually using heat, it does take quite a bit longer to actually dehydrate the meat. And we're not going for full dehydration here either. We're going for a nice hard outer kind of bark, and the inside will remain a little bit tender, a little bit of coloration, kind of like a medium rare steak. You'll see just a nice bit of color on the inside of the meat. That's what we're going for. All right, guys, so here we are a few days later, and you can see I got my good helper around. He strangely always wants to help out when I'm slicing the biltong. Getting all amped up. So here you can see, I think it's been about 3 days that this has been on the dehydrator. See, the meat's nice and stiff. Oh, that little piece broke off. There's still a couple soft spots. If the meat still has a lot of raw areas, what I'll do is slice it and put those parts that are still a little raw looking back in the dehydrator, slice so they dry out nice and quick. You see I did a little test cut here. You can see just a bit of color to that. It's just about perfect. I mean, that's what I love there. It's, you know, a little tender, a little chewy. You get a bit of the kind of like gamey, bloody sort of taste. It's proper meat. It's not that Jack Link's bullshit you get in the store. This is some good stuff. So let's process this now. Of course, you can do this by hand. I happen to have my old as shit meat slicer. All right, got the slicer all set up. This thing is noisy as hell, so once I turn it on, I'm probably not really going to talk. Already got it set to 4, which is a nice roundabout spot to be. And here comes the turbine. There you can see what we're getting off of it. Beautiful. Just a little bit of color to it. This might be a little more rare than some people like, so I'll throw it back on. I'm probably going to give this batch to a buddy. He just gave me a whole bunch of nice new camo for geese hunting for free. So, you know, got to return the favor. Here we are at the final step of the curing process. You can see I just got them spaced out over the plates. This one's a little heavy loaded, but it's all pretty well spaced out. Should get enough air circulation to get nice and cured. Plug her back in. And we'll leave that go for a few hours until the color gets right. Now for the spice, does not get any easier. 1 tablespoon salt, 1 pepper, and 1 ground coriander. Smells so damn good. Then add it to your meat. I kind of forgot to film the addition part here, but you can see we got some beautiful biltong. It's going to be hard, but I recommend letting it sit for at least a day. For some of the fatty parts will actually give off a little bit of grease, and that'll make the seasoning stick to the rest of the meat really nicely. If you just put it in the bag and start eating it right away, the lean pieces, the seasoning won't really stick to. You see, like that piece has virtually no seasoning because there's no fat on it, hence the seasonings aren't sticking to it. You could maybe just spray a little oil in there or something, but it's better just let the natural fats do their thing. So I'm about to actually get another batch going, so I'm just going to save these seasonings for the next batch. So guys, there we have it. Some insanely delicious biltong. Highly recommend trying it if you haven't before. I think the original purpose of this video was just to modify my dehydrator, and it's now turned into making South African biltong. So, this is probably one for the B channel. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time. Have a great one.